Okay, so let's get right into it. I would like to share our profile on our speakers. Like I mentioned, this is being recorded, so there's opportunity to join or to go and rewatch on YouTube. So yes, that's Professor Fakorede. Professor Fakorede, Professor of Technology, Education, focused on mechanical in the TVET space at the University of Lagos. A respected scholar in the TVET field. Professor Fakorede has, in fact, we had to find a way to compress his profile because it was like multiple page. But the idea is for you to understand that he has a background. And when we talk of having someone to speak to this team, we have the right person. Extensive experience in competency-based education, workforce readiness, curriculum development. And he has significantly contributed to advancing TVET space policy and institutional development in Nigeria. And he continues to influence how the vocational and the education space prepares learners for industry and the future of work. So that's for Professor Fakorede. We're still waiting for him to join us again. I think it should be a network issue. We hope to resolve that soon. Next, we'll be moving to our second speaker, which is Engineer Temitope Francis Ogunlowo, an electrical engineering practitioner, industrial automation specialist, senior electrical instructor in renowned TVET institution in Lagos. Very passionate about the TVET space and workforce readiness. He has specialty in industrial automation, electrical systems, programmable logic controls, and the whole industrial area. He has trained and supported professionals across manufacturing, energy, industrial sector in Nigeria and beyond. And he also has the opportunity, being a senior instructor, to train in-service personnel, meaning industrial personnel that are working in the cement manufacturing, FMCG, and of course, port terminal. He's very passionate about TVET, instructor development, and is a strong advocate in bridging gaps between what industry requires and what is being taught in the institution, and very important in building competency in the future of work. He's a speaker, mentor, and technical education practitioner, and he brings valuable insights into our discussion today. He's big on advancing instructional excellence and shaping next generation of skilled technical talents. His work focuses on developing industry-relevant competencies, thereby strengthening TVET and preparing learners for successful careers in the world of work. So we're supposed to go right into our conversation. Let's dive right into it. We have a lot to discuss. And personally, I'm very excited about our conversation today. In the course of this conversation, definitely would like to share some experiences I also have to give context to why we're having this conversation. And I'm very sure that a good number of those that are joining us and even that are currently here, either probably you're an instructor, you've had conversations about this, we understand the intricacies of the need for skilled instructors. So I would like to start saying, to explain what we want to do here is to have conversations about the TVET instructor's place. The whole reason why we're doing this having this discourse is want to explore the evolving nature, of TVET instruction and their professional identity as a TVET instructor, the industry relevance, career progression within the space, and the competence development, and the strategic role that TVET instructors play in workforce and industrial development. All right, so beyond talking about the nature, the elements within the value chain within the TVET instructor place, we really want to talk about what are the challenges we have in this space. We want to talk about, we want to reflect on experiences. We would definitely like to reflect on experiences of our speakers. We want them to bring to bear the experience, professional career, experience on the field, the impact of policy in the TVET instructor development space. So the conversations regarding, schools, so as conversation regarding connection between institutions and TVET space and government and workplace alignment continues. TVET instruction is increasingly becoming central to workforce readiness, industrial competitiveness, technology advancements, national development. And in my opinion, the instructor profession remains one of the most undervalued and the least understood profession in workforce development. Yeah, so which is one of the reasons we're delving into this space. So yes, we're getting into the nitty-gritty of the conversation. And as I said few minutes ago, we know there's so many conversations going on regarding connection or the disparity between or the dichotomy between the workplace and training institution. And as that conversation continues, the subject of TVET instruction increasingly becomes central to workforce readiness, right? National development, technological advancements. And like I said, in my opinion, from experience, especially from experience, the instructor profession remains one of the most undervalued and least understood profession in the workforce development. I stand to be corrected. As I said, I'm speaking from my own experience, and I'll really love to hear from your own perspective. So the conversation today will explore not just the technical skills part of the TVET instructor or the instruction profession, but also the professional pathways that combines the technical expertise, the pedagogy, and the leadership, industry engagement, mentorship, and competence development. So we have a wide range of topics to explore, and we would like to keep it as relevant as possible. And we would like to go straight into the conversation. Once again, my speakers, you're welcome. Professor Fakorede, Engineer Tokwe, I'm delighted to have you here. So we'd like to, let's say, look at the evolving nature of the TVET instruction space. All right, so first, I would definitely like to direct first question to you, Professor Fakorede. So as TVET instruction has changed significantly over the years, I want to understand, we want you to share with us from your own perspective, how the role of a TVET instructor has evolved in response to changes in industry, technology, and the learning environments. You are muted.
Thank you very much, the chief host. Let me add the chief. Actually, thank you for bringing up a program like this. This is the only, we want more of this because it will bring about the advocacy needed for the TVET program, because a lot of image laundering is needed for the awareness of this program. Actually, TVET instruction has undergone a remarkable transformation over the years. And this is not to anything but due to rapid advancement, digitalization, globalization, and changing workforce demand. Consequently, the role of TVET instruction is no longer limited to the traditional function of the classroom. We are now considering, we realize the fact that, because one of the roles in the TVET says, a child must be trained in an environment which is a replica of the industry which that child is going to work. And for this to come up, we had to synchronize with the industrial environment, that is the workplace. Now, the TVET is increasingly becoming an industry-oriented profession. And this calls for the fact that the student on this program must acquaint themselves with the 21st century skill. And among these are communication, teamwork, adaptability, origination, digital, because we know that without the issue of digital, we may not be able to go anywhere this time around. And because of this, even the teacher has to teach the student with what they are familiar with. Unlike while we are in the school, we go to library, look for textbook, this and that. But these days, at the comfort of their room, they could access everything online and they could learn all this. We are trying to remove some of this bottleneck of learning some things which are not necessarily practical. And what do you mean by that? Technological advancement has reshaped the instructional responsibility of TVET. Emerging technologies such as the automation, robotic, artificial intelligence, and computer-aided manufacturing has make the work in technology education to be easier. As a result of this, the TVET instructors are expected to integrate modern technologies into the classroom environment. And such teacher must be competent in the area of using the digital tools, the online tools, virtual competencies, and multimedia. If all this will come into place, an adage says you need to teach the student with what they are interested in. We realize that everybody is interested in internet and computer stuff now. Now we are going to the issue of AI, which anybody that is left behind in this area will not fit in. So by the time we were teaching these students this time around, we are not just saying we want to solve problems, but we equally want to adopt the problem solving, the project based, but we are bringing in more of collaboratory activities. So the core issue of cooperative teaching and learning has now come into place. And this is what we're preaching in technology education. The era has passed that only the never do well are pushed into technology and vocational education programs. If we have a lot of this crop of good students that are ready to learn, sure, TVET is the key. The modern TVET instructor is becoming a lifelong learner and educational researcher. Since technology, we realize that it's a lifelong learning. It's a practicable something. I don't want to measure any discipline. By the time you are producing or you are working, you are seeing the outcome of what you are doing. You are seeing the beauty. You can look at it and modify the aesthetic. Let's speak mechanical for example. When a child works on a project in the mechanical line, if it works or is not working, the child will see it at the end of the day. Pick electrical. The functionality of the equipments that are worked on could be seen, unlike some discipline that we just put down formulas, we put down story. So in conclusion, I want to say that the role of the TVET instructor has evolved from being a traditional transmitter of vocational skills, just mere skill, to becoming a dynamic facilitator of technological innovations. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that, Professor Fakorede. That's quite insightful. And just like you said, the evolving nature of the environment requires the TVET instructor also to go from traditional role to a more, would I say, real-time, effective and efficient position. So I would like to, Engineer Tokwe, I mean, defining professionalism in the TVET space, all right? Can you share with us what it truly means when you talk about professionalizing within the TVET education, especially in the learning environment, all right? How should instructors rather represent the profession, both inside and outside the classroom or learning environment? I'm particularly asking you this question because I know that beyond the traditional students, I mean, trainees, you also work with in-service personnel across industry. So we would like to know how instructors should represent the profession in this space. Engineer Tokwek. Okay,
Hello,
good.
am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
Your question. Thank you very much for having me, Madam Eniola. It's been an honor to be on this platform. I think
basically the idea. Sorry. Am I audible, please?
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So with two hats, I mean, one aspect is that he has to be technically and occupationally an expert. He has to know his trade so well. And on the other hand, he has to be that pedagogical excellence or competence. So one thing is to know something, another thing is to be able to pass it across, which should not be taken for granted, because the faculty can tell us more about that, So I realized that there's so much that's involved in passing out the knowledge in this space, that it's not just for an instructor to know it. So in the era of AI that we exist today, we realize that one of the few professions that can survive the inrush of AI is the technical vocational training or technical vocation. Because while the white collar jobs are under threat because of machines doing most of those automated things, the technical education is still at its core, even though at some point it can be threatened by automation, but you still have that expertise to be able to do things hands-on. So the ethical standard and integrity is fundamental. That's what an instructor has to embody in this area. And as Professor Karupako already mentioned earlier, that continuous professional development is key, because gone are those days when you can just know the thing and you don't have to spend much to improve yourself, because there's not much improvement taking place. But right now, the pace of improvement, or the pace of evolution of technology is so fast that within a lifetime, one can have a series of almost no similar technological improvement in the space. And you also have that personal attributes of a leadership. So when you are passionate about something, that's the only thing that can keep you going when the chips are down, because there's a bit of image laundering that needs to be done in order to upgrade that prestige of technical education in our society right now, because not everybody wants to. In fact, people see it with such a derogatory view. So one needs to be able to see things from that professional point of view. And as an instructor, you have to embody it to encourage the students, because many of them, because of that negative image that thing connotes, they are not proud of what they do. Even within the cadre of current, where everybody wants to be an engineer, but nobody wants to be associated with, nobody wants to be called a technologist or a technician, because they consider it rather derogatory. And these are things I think we need to really, a lot of effort has been put in this, I must say, but we still have a long way to go. Yeah. And also the commitment to serving, seeing your work as a way of serving others. I think that's very key, because most times many people just see, when they ask what would they don't want to do, the first thing they ask is how much are they going to pay me? So I keep telling my students, be good in what you do. If you are good in what you do, money will come naturally. But if you put money first, probably with some short-term goals, you can get some money and all that, but it won't last. But once you add value, people are ready to pay for it. So that commitment to be able to give, to serve others, must be there. And this is going to have to be to passengers across. As at things that has to do outside the classroom, well, one has to create an engaging and learning environment even outside the classroom. I keep telling my students that sometimes most of the learning takes place outside the classroom. One has to have that habit, or that personal orientation of wanting to know, that healthy curiosity. So, of course, safety first, and helping them to realize that many of those things can be achieved even outside the classroom. So, that continuous improvement and learning, and also linking them up with the industry experts, uh, which were experienced as an instructor, both within the classroom and in the industry, doing the consultancy work and all that. You get to know a lot of professionals out there in the industry. And being the link between them and the classroom environment help the students a lot to see that as a career, so they don't just see it as, okay, I'm not going there to work and earn a living, but rather as a career path where they can grow and reflect on. I think also emphasis on maintenance of standards. Most times, there are tendency to bypass standards. Yeah, when, as I say, production is down, you are trying to fix things as soon as possible. But I think maintenance of standard is one of the things that marks professionalism. Making people to realize that it is important, and as important as your job is to maintain, globally recognized standard as things. And in that case, you can be a mentor and role model for them. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for that, Engineer Tope. Very insightful. Building on what you have said, there is this common assumption, and I think this is for both yourself and Professor Fakorede, common assumption that, anyone with technical skills can automatically teach effectively. And while we know that technical expertise may not alone be sufficient, all right, for TVET instruction, I mean, from experience, you would be in a good position to say if that is the case or not. So I would like to know, what are your thoughts about these assumptions? Assumptions that all you need is technical skills for you to flourish as an instructor in the TVET instruction profession. Professor Fakorede, you want to go first? You are muted.
There's nothing wrong in assuming, but we have to be sure that whatever you have assumed can be proven. Like the gentleman has said, Engineer Tope, when he was describing the need for professionalism, he has talked about the technical competence, which even the technical person we have. If you have the technical competence, that is, you are capable of doing what ought to be done in carrying out the repair. Besides that, he also mentioned about the pedagogical effectiveness. When we are talking about pedagogical effectiveness, we are talking about the ability to deliver knowledge, the practical skill, and the familiarity with modern industrial technologies. You may be familiar with this thing, but the sequential process that is needed to deliver this instruction may not be there, because learning is spiral in nature. We teach from simple to the complex. But for a pure technical competent man, all he's interested in is how are we doing this thing? But why are we doing it that way? He's not taking it into consideration. As well, when we are talking about teaching, there's something called ethical conduct and integrity. There's a level you will put yourself that will make your student want to learn. If that ethical gap is not fulfilled, there may be something wrong. And we're talking about technical teaching. One thing is very paramount, which is the first thing we teach before we commence any phase or modular of instruction, and that is safety consciousness. If the safety consciousness are not followed as it should, you may teach today and not teach tomorrow. It's only the person that is alive that will teach. There's another thing we call industrial orientation and continuous learning. By the time a technical expert is teaching, he's taking himself back to the industry, what is applicable, how it should be done, how a novice that you are handling, what do we call teaching? Teaching is the ability of a more matured individual to pass knowledge to a less knowledgeable person. So you need to put yourself when you were at that level before you can impact that knowledge very well. And there's one thing called a positive attitude to work. A positive attitude to work and the human relation. You will see people will be saying Nigerian youth are lazy. Fine. They want to make money. They want to be on the fast lane. But we need to bring them to the attitude to work for them to be able to learn. It is you that you are an adult that is thinking about the sequential processes. You need to convince them. You need to tell them about the human relation. One can know the job, but if that human relation, the ability to communicate effectively and correctly, nothing will be passed. And that's what we are talking about. So we are not just bringing students together and telling them what to do. We need to know the how, the why, the when, and that will bring about effectiveness. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Professor Akorede. Engineer Tope, you want to give your thoughts about these assumptions?
Well, I think Prof has summarized my point really. You know, most times when people assume like that, it's because they feel that what is there to teach is not just to tell people to do this kind of thing. But anyone who is familiar with the nitty-gritty, the sequential processes involved in passing out knowledge, in exchanging ideas, will realize that there are methods around these things. And those methods are necessary for there to be a proper passing on of expertise. And we are talking about not just theory, not just, we're talking about things that has to do with result-oriented pedagogy. And in this case, you are relating with not just human being, we are relating with them to machines. So how to handle equipment, how to handle tools, how to, it's a whole package of attitude and behavior. And in this sense, one cannot just, one needs to be there to realize that it goes beyond just assuming that it can be, you can just pass it across. And unfortunately, when students realize that you know this thing, but somehow you are not passing it across, they disconnect. And once they disconnect, it takes double the energy to bring back their trust. Because with that, you lost them. I used to tell my students that I am not interested in teaching you electricity. I'm interested in teaching you how to teach yourself electricity. Because the first work of an instructor is to incite the interest in them. Let them be the one, because once you have ignited that passion for learning, you can lead them. They will even go beyond where you never dreamt of. And that gives them that drive to go far, even keep exploring, because you have started off something in them. So that passion is not something that one cannot say. It takes, you can't give what you don't have. It takes what you have in you to be able to pass across that fire of learning that will keep them going. And I think that is what they need. And when they see that you embody, that you are convinced of what you are doing, and you give them to their idea, they will go places. So that's for me, that is an embodiment of what an instructor ought to be. And as Prof has said, that he also inquired that ethical and ethical integrity, because these days when people talk about, when these people use many people have a lot of expensive cars and all that, and you see a mechanic that is very good, but it's not honest. You will buy something for 100,000, they will tell you, this is 300,000, and even probably even damage your car. So a lot of things go into it. So this ethical integrity is very fundamental, very key. But when somebody has been trained and see the whole thing as a whole package, that it's not just for you to know the thing, just for you to, but to be able to do it with a lot of integrity. I think that's also is part of the whole thing. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Engineer Tokwe. I quite agree with what yourself, Engineer, and Professor Fakoride are saying, because there's so much assumption. And I also think it borders on, permit me to use the word, the porosity of the TVET instruction space. Porosity in the sense that an average technical person who is moving in between, transitioning between careers, all right, and sees that, oh, I have these skills, so I should teach it now, it shouldn't be so difficult. At least I know it. So that's why one of the reasons why you have these assumptions. And from my experience in the classroom, when I'm working with TVET instructors, there is usually this first stance of, I know I have the technical expertise, what else is left to learn? But you've given very valuable and very fantastic insights, because anybody can make an assumption, but this profession requires a lot of process. It's like beyond the fact that you have the technical expertise, you are curating what you have, but you're also reflecting on your audience, and you're also adding one or two other elements to ensure that at the end of the day, competence is gained. So thank you very much for your take on this assumption. We all know that TVET, exists to, the essence of TVET is to develop, competent individuals that can perform successfully and in the real workplaces. And we also know that, okay, I'm going to assume that we also know that achieving this requires good teaching, bordering on some of the points that you have shared. Of course, more industry exposure and technical assessments, and the list goes on. But with this understanding, how could, because this now coming to the crux and the elements that bind the experience together, how should vocational pedagogy, industrial practice, competence development interact effectively within the TVET system? All right, the pedagogy aspect of it, the industrial practice, the competency development. What should be that mix, the interaction Because in order for us to have an 100% product result in terms of competent trainee, there has to be a form of interaction between all these elements. All right. So what should it be like? The interaction within the TVET space. So I will definitely, this for both of you, but I'd like to start with Professor Fakorede. You are muted.
Thank you very much, the chief host. What we're talking about is for learning to be said to have taken place, there should be a change in behavior of the learner. And what is the behavior we want to change this time around when it comes to TVET? The behavior we are trying to change now is for the learner to have acquired the skill. We know the theoretical part of this. The practicability is what we are still struggling with. The number of courses that the students have to cope with. And one thing is sure, that is the school-industrial relationship. They need to have a very strong tie. We are copying from developed countries, the Germany, the Indian, the Japan. Over there, there are a number of days the students spend in the classroom. And there are other number of days that they equally spend in the industry for the practical activities. But over here, we are relying on the SIWIS, that the student will go for SIWIS for a specified number of months. But if we look deeply into it, number one, what are the students' attitude to learning? Number two, how do we see the supervision of this program, either from the industrial-based supervisor or from the school-based supervisor? If these gaps are closed, I think they will do better. As well, there are schools that some of these equipment, the student has never seen it. And that is how it's going to be throughout their learning process. Some of these engineering schools springing up day by day, springing up. Even we, the teachers, we are baffled about what we are producing. And that is what we are working on. Our curriculums are not outdated, please. Because in five years, the NUC come around to carry out accreditation. And before you can be certified to be accredited, forget about the window dressing. There's a degree of acceptance of the equipment, the tools, the material that they have to ascertain. We need to work more on our school-industrial relationship. And even some of the industry, what they do in their training school is that now they are liaising with school. And that is better for them. When they liaise with school, they are very sure of the product that is coming out from such institution. So we need to do more on tidying up the school-industrial relationship. Our work is about skill. Like Professor Bugaje will say, the Executive Secretary of MBTE, he will say, the only commodity that is creating gross domestic product in the international world now is skill and not just money. If you have the skill, you are presentable here in Nigeria, go to any country, you are presentable. Definitely you will have the money. So as we are talking about the parents as well on their own end, they need to assist the school. It is not enough that you've paid the school fees. The students are coming out every day that they are going to school or they are over there on campus. The parents as well need to assist the teachers on their ward and children. We need more. You see, this time around, we need more of talking, encourage, motivating these students. It is only when they know what they are doing that they will be more interested in doing it. Most of these students that are coming around, they don't know why they are in the class. So we need to encourage them. We need to, our school-industrial relationship, talking about the facility for them to know what they want to learn. Some students, when they are given the course outline, some don't bother until the teacher comes around And that is what in University of Lagos, we are ensuring that despite that these students have gotten this, are they really doing it? And we are seeing results. Most of the schools or most of the industry that our students are working, our products, when we get feedback, we are encouraged and we want to do more on it. So the school industrial relationship, the parents should come on board. We also need more career guidance and counselors. When the student knows the opportunities that are abound after their graduation, I'm sure their interest is being sustained. So thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Engineer Tokwe, what's your insights on this in the interaction between pedagogy, industry, and also, pedagogy, industry, interaction, and competency development? Just to give a little bit context to it. So there are different ingredients that is very important when we want to achieve a particular outcome. All right. And then particular proportion, they are relevant particular proportion. So what should be the interaction between these areas for us to get the favorable outcome?
Okay. First of all, I would say that interaction essentially has to be continuous. So it's not a one-off thing. From day one. So I give an example of a practice that is on in Germany. Here you have a dual training system. So a company, a manufacturing company adopts some set of students from day one before the students enter the technical school. So they adopt them and the school take them in. So they gain admission. Now, they are growing curriculum, ordinary curriculum in that school, but every week, one day in a week, they go to that industry for what they call day release. And in that day release, they have somebody there who is an employer of that company, but who is constantly in tune with the curriculum they are running, such as to be able to harmonize the practical they are doing and the school curriculum. And that goes on until they graduate after the 3 years. Now, after that 3 years, not all of them are absorbed by that company because the company see it also as a corporate social responsibility in which they can allow other companies to absorb those ones. So they employ the ones they want, and the rest they see it as their input to the society. Now, we are yet to see set of companies like that in Nigeria where they actually take ownership of what is happening in the industry. I mean, in the classroom. So when a student knows that it belongs to two worlds, both in the classroom and in the industry, he sees it as it's something that he has to excel on both ends. And also, this mix we are looking at, it's not a hard and fast rule for one discipline to the other. One has to find the right mix for each occupation. The right mix for it in electrical or in industrial automation may not be exactly the same percentage in mechanical or hospitality business. So in those areas, there are each percentage that vary depending on the need and how the curriculum affects your one area and the other. Also, one has to keep in mind that letting the student to see the implication or the result of what they are going to face when they are in a classroom help them to see where to focus their energy. Because most times, it's when they're already facing the real life situation before they now try to adapt. But letting them see from day one so that the technical skills that they are involved in, that they are practical, they are doing in the classroom, the simulation or the project they are working in, all those things are seen with that end result in mind. Also, most of the equipment and the trainers, I'm talking of training equipment, has to be updated in the sense of the instructor has to be carried along. You cannot have an instructor who is not up to date to be able to use many of these cutting edge um, training materials. I was surprised. One of the students who mentioned that university, very well equipped university, in this country, and this fellow, he graduated with a fourth class actually, and so when he told me the kind of equipment they have, I was, oh, wow. So he showed me pictures and some of the things the equipment there, but he said sadly, in his whole 5 years in that school, he never touched it. So one day he walked up to one of their lecturers. And lecturer told him simply that, see, that thing, I really don't know how to train with it. So it's good. I mean, okay, we show it and all that, but it's for the school, but the school has not taught us how to train with it. So the fellow just went through that school with the normal, curriculum and but without using that equipment to train. So when he got to the industry and he finds such an equipment, of course, he's at the level of people who never had it. So things like this are some of the challenges that can affect that right mix of what the industry expects and what the classroom presents. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that response, Engineer Tokwe. So as we progress in our conversation, all right, so we want to look at some of the challenges, all right, that we have with quality of instructor in Nigeria. I mean, the challenges that are affecting instructor quality in Nigeria, Africa at large. And this question is for the both of you. All right, so from your own, I mean, Professor Fakorede, as a result of the work that you do, a trainer of trainers, also same with Engineer Tokwe, we have a lot of people saying a lot of things. This is why we have a problem with instructors and all that. But from your own standpoint and professional experience, if we can have some of the systemic challenges currently affecting instructor quality and the professional growth of instructors, let's say Nigeria. I know it's something that goes beyond Nigeria, or because I've actually experienced that when I work with different instructors, let's say across West Africa. Yeah. So, but for Nigeria, let's start from Nigeria. What are the challenges, systemic challenges that affect the quality of instructors and their professional growth? Let's start with you, Professor Korede. And you are muted.
Thank you very much for that question. Without mincing words, one thing for now is paramount when it comes to teaching learning process. The technological adaptive instructors. The instructors need to be ready to adapt technology. Nothing should disturb learning. There shouldn't be any excuse for any learner to be ready to learn. The future-ready instructors must be digitally literate, capable of integrating emerging technology into teaching and assessment. If that is achieved, then there's something we call the industrial connected pedagogy. The industry connected pedagogy, which every professional should have in mind. The instructor of the future must maintain strong relationship with industries. Me, as a mechanical man, I must know of the industry. I must visit the industry occasionally to see what is advancing there and be ready to expose my students. what we're talking about, each time I keep repeating this on technology and vocational education, we are imparting a lifelong experience into our learner. And when we talk about this, some instructors are still teaching with their note of 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. That shouldn't be. We should move with time and know what is happening for now. The students are no longer contented with poverty. Many children that are born by teachers never want to be teachers. Not because they don't have the knowledge, but because they want to be well placed in the society. The instructor must be able to identify entrepreneurial opportunities and mentor the students on that line. If you are not able to know the outcome of these students at the day they graduate, what will become of them? Where opportunities are bound for them to work and make good money? Why would you want to retain them on that field? We also need the facilitators or the instructor need to be flexible and adopt inclusive learning. You are on vocational education. You should be concerned about their growth, what becomes of them, how do they interact with the outside world, what becomes of them after this program. It is paramount. Every instructor on the technical education program are mentors. They should have a vast knowledge in career and guidance counseling. If that is there, you'll be able to carry your student along. Not forgetting the ethical and professional role model. As an instructor, let your students see you and be interested in you. You don't go tattered. You don't go uncared for. Oh, is this what I will come and become after all this? No, they don't want to be that. As well, there's what is called sustainability in conscious instructor. You need to sustain the interest of your learner. You need to be there for them to be able to approach you each time they find anything in the outside world. Well, let's go to the secondary school. Let's see some of these our teachers. They're in charge of picking latecomers. They're in charge of beating students. Will those students want to come around? If you look at mathematics has evolved around that the mathematics teacher wants to be available. The technical and vocational instructor must be readily available and be concerned about who you call your students. There's another thing which we should look into, collaboratory interdisciplinary agents. You should be concerned about these students. Where are you having problem? Okay. If I'm able to diffuse what their problem is, I like Mr. Jide. No, there's no time you go there. Your problem, we just tell you it's not a problem. The teacher himself need to read abreast of his or her learners. And you should be conversant with the innovations that are going on and the change agents. Where can you get this? Okay, all right, that type of car you saw. Okay, you went to one office, it's a smart office. Fine, I will tell you the technology about it. Expose them to it and let them be interested. In conclusion, the future of TVET instruction, not only in Nigeria, is highly promising. Why is it promising? Because the societies are increasing in recognizing us. And the labor market is there waiting to accept us. Because when you have a service you want to render to people, definitely the market is open. It is now your own idea for you to develop that skill, for you to... There's no skill that is as... Look at plumbing. Every home need have a plumbing problem. If you can master the skill, you have food on your table. I could remember when I want to come into Unilag. As at then, my department is now having a workshop. And they were asking me, okay, you are here as a technology and vocational education teacher. What do you want to do for us? I said, fine. To the best of my knowledge, I know the nitty-gritty of this course, both the theory and the practical. Then one professor said, but in a case we don't have a workshop, how do you want to teach the student? I said, fine. All I need is tools. If I can get tools, and just get me one canopy. If I have tools and one canopy, the job is done. He said, we don't have the vehicle you will repair, this and that. I said, every one of you, out of these 20 professors facing me, you need to see them. I said, out of these 20 professors facing me, 10 of you have cars. today your car is needing a servicing. I will tell you the spare parts to buy. Bring it. I will service that vehicle. My students will see me. They will learn as I'm doing the servicing. By the time you take away your car, you are skeptical about what we have done. But if you don't have any problem, you will see a friend that is having brake problem. You will tell them, come on, take it to Fakorede in the workshop. Oh. They are doing something nice. Oh. I say, if we are able to solve the braking problem, and I put you in the car, I test drive the car on the highway, there's nothing like brake failure. When we are coming back from that test, you will drive it yourself, and you realize it's okay. I say, another day, I pointed to another professor, I said, no, don't punch me. So like that, before we know it, the school built a workshop for us. They bought us tools. And we were, our workshop for today, you need to be in my department. My students built it. We do a collaborative effort. The building students, they molded the blocks, they laid the block. The carpentry students made the roof. The electrical students did the wiring. The mechanical students fixed the pole. And by the time we come together, the job has been done. By the time initially we requested from the works to come and build us a workshop, they gave one outrageous bill that it will cost them to build the workshop. But I and my other colleagues, we call on the head of department that there's nothing serious about this. It's something we can do. In less than $1 million, we were able to build this, and it's still functional. So an instructor needs to be ready, needs to read a verse, be ready to assist the students, and the students will be willing to learn. They will even convince some of their friends that are not on the field. You better come here. You are learning and you are knowing what you are learning. Not that you are cramming insurance and you are cramming banking until you get to the field. We know definitely that all these students will still be retrained to what the industry wanted to use them for. But let us make them readily available that they are sure. We are not training just for the streets. We are training and we want to make entrepreneurs out of them. By the time they are learning and they could service 1-2 cars and they could get some stipend, they want to learn more. There was a particular day we pieces a gearbox and we worked on it. And they were like, okay, when you put it in gear 1, this is what is happening inside the gearbox. In gear 2, this is the synchronous gear that is meshing with this. Mm-hmm. When you involve them in that practical activities, then knowledge will surely be impacted. And when they know what they were doing, come on, you yourself as a teacher, you are okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. Engineer Tokwen, so you've been in the training space for a good number of years, whether in the technical training centers and or industry. And you know, from your experience, so you can use your experience as a backdrop. All right, the challenges. What are the challenges instructors, especially the technical instructors in Nigeria, what do they have? What are the challenges affecting the quality? And when we say quality, we have to touch about when we say a quality technical instructor, what that means. So what are the challenges affecting quality instructor and their professional growth? Because I'll give you an example. I've been to a school where I found that technical instructor, the last time they've done any form of professional development was about 11 years, meaning that they had not gone for any training, either refresher or certification, or no external engagement to know what obtains. All right. So what are the challenges to this? Why is this not happening? Because it's becoming a commonplace, all right, in our conversation there that, oh, they have not done that. And of course, they're having challenges. That's why the place is not growing. Nobody wants to come into the space. There is no future in this place. So I wanted to shine light on those challenges, as you know it, that affect the quality and the growth of an instructor in the profession.
Okay, thank you so much. I think many of these challenges are systemic. Systemic in the sense that The, the average technical instructor in Nigeria see himself alone, struggling with the system alone. And there have been a lack of interest in him from the government, from the even from the policymakers, So there's a kind of structural weakness in aligning with the education that the industry needs. And most times when all these are there, you have very few people who simply are endowed with that natural passion for the technical education. That is that natural passion that keep them going. So they keep finding ways to solve the recurring problem. And this problem of lack of underinvestment, both in money and the resources generally, policy implementation gaps, structural weaknesses, and many of these things, they come up as and unfortunately the students are the receiving end. So when you have this inadequate funding of and resources constraints, the TVET instructor see himself helpless. So he goes out of his way to find out how he can just manage to get things get things running. And of course, this leads to outdated and broken equipment, unreliable power supply, insufficient consumables for practical trainings, instructors struggling with poor working conditions, problem of safety, even in the industry, the PPEs are not below standards, So when you have also many instructors have a strong theoretical background, but they lack that industrial experience because a significant percentage of them lack pedagogical qualifications. These days the NAPTEP, the City and Guild, they have low prestige among the instructor system because nobody really talked about them. So until the government wake up and really help or take a look at what is these industries are going through, that's when all these things can be seen to be of help. I was at this MBT curriculum review in Abuja 2 years ago, and one of the things, so we're trying to upgrade the old curriculum to industry-based standards. So I was invited as an expert to sit on that panel, and unfortunately, most of the things that were being discussed are things that lack government backing. So MBT coming in as a government parastatal, they themselves saw the rocks, and we're trying to see, okay, so where do we go from here? So we're able to tell them that these are the things. This is what is cutting edge in the industry. These are the things, and these are the caliber of instructor training that is needed right now. Also there's a general shortage of competent TVET teachers generally in the country. And this has really done a disservice to the growing interest in TVET because many young people really want to go into that, but they don't have people to guide them. They don't have anybody to look up to and say, okay, I would like to, be like this, like Professor Fakorede rightly said. Your student look at you in the way you address and all that, you don't look presentable. And the fellow just tell himself, when I grow up, I don't want to be like this. So also limited continuous development, professional development and training opportunity. Like you rightly said, many of those instructors don't have a kind of continuous professional training. Something just once in a while they are invited maybe for conferences and all that. And many of these things really don't have direct bearing on their work. So nobody's really thinking about their own improvement. And you cannot give what you don't have, like I said earlier. If you are constantly teaching and you are giving, if you are not replenishing yourself with relevant, updated skills, a time will come when your student will just, lose interest because you are repeating the same old story and all that. Many instructors don't receive any regular industrial attachment, kind of a consultancy that keep them updated what is going on out there, and also some of the curriculum they are running are outdated. When you have a curriculum that was designed to solve a problem of 5, 10 years ago, and you're running it now, fine. You teach your students how to go in line with that curriculum, but when they get to the industry, they meet a more advanced problem. So I think the instructor should also be updated on what is going on in the industry and keep them relevant. The poor infrastructure of workshop and facilities. I was impressed when the Professor Fakorede mentioned how they were able to engage the student to construct that workshop in less than $1 million. This is what is needed, because in that takes initiative of a value-driven instructor to get that done. If you don't have someone that has a passion for that kind of training, you can just hold your hand and say, well, we don't have resources and the government will come and do everything, and eventually, nothing gets done. Also, lastly, the low societal perception and policy in governance issues. Sometimes technical education is seen as a kind of second choice path for lower achieving students. I was a bit disheartened when, recently I saw, the JAM results came out and you have all the 300 and 200. And somehow, I think they even said that they're trying to waive JAM for anybody that wants to go to technical education or I think just because they are like the dregs of the, it shouldn't be, because in this case, when the dregs are pushed there, eventually many things suffer when the result comes at the end of the day. Okay, I think this for me are some of those challenges that, but again, not to lose hope, because with all these challenges, I won't call them problems. They are challenges that call us into action, and with those action, all hands on deck, I think they can be solved. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So I have a follow-up question to that. All right. First, I have a comment in the sense that you said, there is the low prestige, represents poor representation, opportunities for professional development. And, it got me thinking, so who is responsible for this? Because oftentimes we often leave that responsibility to, maybe if government hasn't done this. There is a policy. There's a policy for who can be a TVET instructor, although that's a different conversation, because aligning policy to matter on ground to the current reality on how that works is a different conversation. But who is responsible? Because if we say it's government, I don't see how government can actually resolve that. All right. If we say, prestige, I personally have a responsibility to showcase my profession, all right, to appear as a thought leader in the space, to speak more about it. Thereby, I'm exposing and bringing to light some of the challenges that we have in the space, all right? There is also the issue of, perception, and you are quite right, because the perception of TVET as a system itself is also affecting the aspect of the system, of course, definitely, naturally. So if these challenges persist, they remain unresolved, what risk does that pose to industrial development and workforce readiness? So it's easy for us to picture that, then we have a total collapse. But what exactly? I would like you to share, shine light on the risk involved if this doesn't change. How will it affect national development and workforce readiness?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think the question of who actually is the cause of the problem, I think it's multifactorial. It's not just one person or one institution. The government can't do everything for us, but it's like a case of which one comes for the egg or the chicken. One gives back to the other, and it's a kind of a vicious cycle. But unfortunately, uh, this problem it's difficult to know where it started from, because if somebody doesn't see a clear career path in technical education, he will give it a bad name, and eventually that bad name creates a kind of an atmosphere in which you produce an underqualified people, and the whole cycle continues. But I think some of the risks or these challenges remain, that one, there will a persistent skill mismatch, and on unemployment. So, for example, graduates enter the workforce underprepared, leading to high youth unemployment. So, in that sense, when they go in search of jobs, they can't offer, they don't have value to offer, and that stifles local productivity and innovation. Also, there's a hindered industrialization and economic growth, because in this case now, Africa's ambition for industrialization, diversity, beyond raw material, participation in global value chain and all that, will falter, because industry face talent shortages. These days of Japa, people are leaving the country for all that, kind of a brain drain. And industry will face all this reducing in competitiveness and investment attraction. So those ones will not be there. Then also there's a kind of a widening inequality gap. Inequality gap, it's widening inequality and social risk. Marginalized groups, you have the rural, low income group, and all these people miss out in quality technical education, perpetuating poverty cycle. This can fuel social instability, migration pressure, and lost demographic and divide potential. So all these things are some of the problems that can get the existing problem worse, and without skilled workers and adaptable instructors, adoption of modern technology will be slow. Let's face it. Like I mentioned earlier on, you have instructor that is seeing a very complicated cutting edge training tools, but simply he cannot use it because he has not been taught how to handle it. And as a result, students who are meant to be taught with that tool will not learn at that pace. So the economy remains vulnerable to external shocks and unable to build resilient, innovation driven sectors. Also, there's a massive loss of trust in TVET system, because people, there's a continual poor outcome reinforced by negative perception, reducing enrollment, and further weakening the instructor pipeline in the vicious cycle. So when a student does not see how his instructor, how a viable instructor, a career path that he can follow, then he's discouraged. So at the end of the day, only the grades go into that sector. And I think, like I said earlier, all hope is not lost. Like what VETA is doing, a lot is being invested in that revitalization of the TVET system and the space. But with that efforts on, I think we can begin to see light at the end of the tunnel. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much for doing justice to that question. So despite all these existing challenges, like you said, there is light at the end of the tunnel. All right. So what are the emerging? This is for both you and Professor Fakorede. So in the TVET instruction space, what are the emerging opportunities that makes you optimistic about the future of TVET instruction? I mean, you said yourself, Engineer Tokwe, there's light at the end of the tunnel. Also,
Yes.
Professor Fakorede, there is hope from your conversations. But what are the emerging opportunities? What is there to look forward to that makes TVET instruction space, something to aspire to? Any one of you, Professor Fakorede, you want to go
Okay.
first?
All right. So, okay. I think he's talking. He's muted, please.
You are muted, Prof.
Okay, when you talk about market value and sales, anybody rendering a service that the need is readily available in the market, we are all working in order to make a way and also to render service to the society. People will continually buy cars. People will continually build houses. In that house, there is need for electrification, there's need for plumbing, there's need for mastering, there's need for a carpenter. All these are services, part of services rendered by the TVET program. So, and despite the population that we are having, people are still building. We have the low level, we have the high level, we have the middle level. So by the time you are on a field in which your service is readily available, you still make an income. You don't need to jump around. You just need to know what you are doing. And that is why we continue encouraging these students that the labor market, we are not enough. If people that are coming from the neighboring countries are coming in and they are still making their means of livelihood, they are making it not because they know the nitty-gritty of the skill, but as well their communication skill, their interpersonal skill, they were honest, they were able to render the service without trying to swindle you. So what are we talking about? The market is not even enough. The market has not gotten enough to hire. I remember the last time a particular industry came around and told me that I should please get him about 50 of our students. I gave him 45 because we didn't have much then. I was at Yaba Tech, they gave me some. I was at FCE, I got some. But saying that we don't have enough, we have enough, we produce every year. This was an argument I had with the Commissioner for Education in Lagos State. When they said the schools are not having enough teachers for TVET area, then when he responded, he said, it's because the teachers are not there. I said, excuse me, if you needed 100 teachers, I will give you within a week. And he put me to a challenge. We went trying and we got more than what we needed. So we have more schools for those who wants to go into teaching line. We have industries are springing up. People are building day by day. People are carrying out repairs. People are carrying out repairs day in, day out. All what we need at our own end is to have this CPD, continuous professional development, and be updated on things that are happening in and around the industry. We don't have problem. So the future is very bright because the labor market is waiting to absorb. If the labor market is waiting to absorb, we know we are not producing at a loss. We are not producing to be redundant. Mind you, there are differences in these categories: employable, unemployable, and the employed. If you are employable, for the fact that you are not, if you are unemployable, you may not be there, so you don't complain. But if you are employable, definitely the need for you will arise, and the market is waiting to absorb. So the future is very bright for the TVET graduates. They just need to strive. The pedagogy should be industry-driven. The industry practice should conform with the instructions. Competency is key. If the competency development is the central goal of that institution producing the students, they will have it. The practical exposure is very compulsory. If this is available, we won't talk about that there's no job. No, we are not talking about some discipline that they will say they are too much. The product of the TVET are not enough yet. We need more. And the society is yearning. As far as you are producing for service and the need of the society, If people are not building new ones, they are maintaining what they have. I remember a particular question I was asked when I want to get my job. They were asking me, in this case of, I think it was the period of economic meltdown, and they were asking me that, it's okay, when you produce these students, how will they get job? The market is saturated, and why would they get job? I said, fine, the market is saturated, but not for TVET products. People may not buy new cars. Everybody, if you are maintaining what you have, in as much as it's taking you around, you don't have a problem. I have a fan in my house. I don't need to yawn for new one. If it is fanning me, it's working very well, I'll keep it right. The AC in my house, if it is working very well, I could point my remote and it's cooling very well. So I told them economic meltdown does not affect TVET area. Our market is open. The society is waiting for us to chunk them into the streets. Fine. And this is the more reason why the TVET instructor should be in tune with the industry, know what they want at a particular time, make a connection. Okay, we had a conference 2 weeks ago in which I am one of the organizers. We went as far as Lagos, Ogun, Ondo, Oyo, Ekiti, and begged the executive secretary in each of these states, their executive secretary for TVET program, that they should bring their teachers. But at the end of the day, we find out they could not afford to bring the teachers, but they did one thing which I like. They brought out the principals. And when we make all this talk, at the end of the day, I call the principals together and say, you have been here. It's a sort of eye-opener for you. But at the same time, go back to your schools and act as a trainer. We have trained you. You need to train others. Make these teachers to be in the streets. Let them know what is happening in the industry. If there are new knowledge, they should bring the ideas to school, and the student will be ready to learn more. Thank you, ma'am.
So Professor Fakorede, so what I really want you to also touch on when we talk about emerging opportunities, all right, and that provides an opportunistic future for TVET instruction. Let's look at the area of technology. All right, so there is simulation, there is AI, there is green sustainability, there is advancements in research and technology, and there is recognition for a lot of skill-based economies right now. With those emerging opportunities, all right, I want us to zero in now on what does the future look like in light of these opportunities. There's AI, partnership, collaboration, sustainability, green skills, and of course, heightened recognition of the skill-based economies.
If I want to borrow a leaf from what Engineer Tokpe said, he said the instructors should collaborate with the industries. There should be a sustainable, conscious instructors, the ethical and professional role models. And we delve a lot that the issue of digital practice is very important as today's activity is involved. If the instructors is abreast with the industry, all these emerging opportunities and emerging technologies will be brought down to the level of the learner. Are we together? Okay, fine. In the past, the mechanics have been using their brain to diagnose faults in vehicle. But now we have the OBD. That is the onboard diagnostics tools. You need to be computer literate for you to be able to use some of these things. If you come to the electrical world, what technology has done in that area now is marvelous. And that is why we are very conversant, and we will continue encouraging the instructor to be going for the CPD. If they have this professional development, they will know there are a lot of emerging opportunities in the outside world relating to the AI. The AI is not just there to do the work. The AI will tell you how to go about it, how to do it. The instructors need to be in tune, fine, with what the society require. And if this is in place, the students need to be involved and definitely their interest will be sustained.
Oh.
If their interest is sustained on what is happening in the industry, in the labor market, they want to be there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Engineer Tokwe, in light of what Professor Fakorede has said, and was also why I mentioned the emerging opportunities in industry, in the environment, AI, automation, more recognition for skill-based economies and all. What kind of instructor will industry and society need in the next 10 to 20 years? What's the profile of the kind of instructor that would function and that we should have or in the next 10 to 20 years in light of these opportunities?
All right. Thank you very much. I think right now, I would say there's a kind of momentum for that is driving the change, and this momentum is, we could say, is the force of progress. One of them, like I recall, last year, I think a continental TVET strategy was launched by African Union. That was 2025. In the kind of a 9-year term, 2025 to 2034. Which provides a kind of unified framework focused on sustainable development, social justice, and employability. So all these things, it's emphasizing digitalization, what we could call the green skill. This is of green technology and all that. And foster industry alignment. And this builds instructor capability. Now coming back home in Nigeria, the federal government, just has a recent reform agenda in partnership with UNESCO, GIZ, and World Bank, to include tuition fee in federal technical colleges, curriculum updates, workshop rehabilitation, industry collaboration, and digital transformation. All these things, we say, are forces of change that are gathering momentum in different sectors within the TVET space. Also, looking at the digital transformation initiative, we have this, I think UNESCO is doing a lot here in this Pan-African initiative for digital transformation for TVET, which is creating ecosystem for e-learning, AI-driven tools, these days of virtual reality, incorporating virtual reality in TVET space, and blending the learning with the normal hands-on, traditional hands-on skill. And the African e-learning market is projected to grow significantly, because we are just, our young population is just entering into it, and that is what they are learning. So, offering scalable solutions to infrastructure gaps and enabling flexible, personalized training. So all these things for me are part of the vision of growth and optimism. There's also the rising demand for green and future skills, global shifts towards climate resilience, renewable energy. These days everybody wants to have, NEPA is failing us, so solar panels is coming to the rescue. The other day I was coming from Abuja, and from the sky, we were pouring my flowers in the evening. So the whole of Lagos was lit up. And I say, anybody coming to this country for the first time would think that it's government that is lighting up all this, but these are solar panels. These are people, providing their own power, And even in the sustainable agriculture, you would see the typical fourth industrial revolution, AI, automation, cybersecurity is on the increase, and all these things are driven by TVET programs. And these areas create natural entry points for updated instructors' roles and initiative training models. And even looking at the PPP, the public-private partnership, and investment, increased interest from development partners, private sectors, EdTech, or EdTech investors, moderately handled, successful models, all these things are. And if we look at our partners in our neighbors, Cote d'Ivoire and Ghana, they really very a lot in this area. They demonstrated that this thing works. Why youth focus upskilling program in Nigeria and Kenya are also gaining impact. So I think these are things that we can leverage on as rays of hope. And there's a massive youth demographic divide and perception skill. Africa's massive youth population is creating urgency and opportunity. If you don't find work for this young population, they are a time bomb waiting to explode. So let's tap into this, because the growing recognition of TVET graduates entrepreneurship give job readiness, and we have to be able to market this and let them improve that prestige, which the young people can tap into. And I think we have a lot of future for it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So what I can deduce from what you said is that for the kind of TVET instructor for the future, next 10, 20 years, has to be someone who is versatile, that's the profile, agile, technologically savvy, pedagogically sound, environmentally informed, amongst other things. Someone who is able to adjust, adapt, and learn on the go. So this is a very, very interesting profile portrayed for the future TVET instructor. Thank you very much for that. So now I want to actually talk about, we don't have much time left. I didn't realize that we actually got 2 hours already. All right, so we've already spoken about how, that's Engineer Tokwe, you mentioned how TVET TVET being instruction career is looked at as a fallback for technical professionals or people probably who are looking for opportunities for work, But even if it's something being considered as something, a fallback, a career path to look at, we need to look at who is a TVET instructor? What's the profile of a TVET instructor? Some of them we have mentioned that. But more important is, who is best suited for a career in TVET instruction? All right. Can the profession accommodate? What kind of people should the profession accommodate? First, I'd like you, Professor Fakorede, just quickly, in like 2 minutes, who is best suited for this career? What's the profile of the person that should consider a career in this space?
Thank you. A TVET instructor is a professional educator, a leader in technology and vocational education, who is not just practically skilled, but as well digitally skilled, confidence, and a counselor. It is not enough for you to impart skill. You need to tell the students what becomes of this skill and where are these jobs needed. Because if you're telling me to acquire a skill, how do I profit from this skill I'm acquiring? What becomes of me after acquiring the skill? And this is why a technical instructor has to be somebody that is versatile. It has to be somebody that knows what is happening in the outside world. And for anybody in any particular field to know what is happening in the outside world, you need to go out. And we keep talking about this professional development. If you don't engage with your other colleague, you will not know more about the technical competence. You will not know more about the pedagogical competence. Then as well, the professional and the industrial competence needs to come into play. So I can summarize it as a technical instructor is one who is technically competent, who is pedagogically competent, who has the professional and industrial competence, and has all these to deliver to the student. Such a person could be referred to as a technical instructor. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Professor Fakorede. Engineer Tokwe, there is an increasing conversation about bringing more industry professionals into the TVET institutions to work, to train as instructors. Or I think this also borders on the fact that the continuous conversation or the deficit for skilled instructors in the space. So their conversation about, oh, you are professionals in industry, come and share your experience. And you also mentioned very important in TVET instruction is industry experience. What would you say in terms of what should professionals in industries that are considering a career in TVET instruction or coming into the TVET space, what should they understand and what should be their consideration before transitioning into instructional roles?
Sorry, can I come again? That last one?
Okay, so I said that, there is a lot of conversation around bringing industry professionals into TVET institution, all right?
Okay.
It's being said under the private collaboration between industry and education, and it's also being discussed in the context of the deficit that's in the industry, in the TVET instruction space. What would you, as someone in the TVET instruction space, who also engages in industry services, what would you say that this professional should understand before transitioning into instructional roles? For example, what should their mindsets be? All right, so what should be the consideration for the challenges between industry professionals, what they would face in the teaching environment, and then, of course, give your own other considerations into it.
Okay, so I would say there are some key competencies that such professional should have if you hope to be in that space. So, for example, like I said earlier on, they have to be future ready dual professional. Dual in the sense that they have to be up to date in their technical mastery, that strong dual expertise in being technical mastery and pedagogical excellence. So they have to be able to wear those two caps excellently well. They will need regular industrial attachment or part-time practice to stay current with the technology like AI, robotics, digital tools, and all that. At the same time, be in touch with how to be able to pass on the knowledge with the relevant AI tools. That digital and tech proficiency is very important. So you're comfortable with blending the learning, AI-assisted assessment, virtual simulation, online platform, data-driven instructions. They should teach tech literacy alongside core skills. Now, somebody was asking, what is the role of assessors, industry assessors in the TVET space? Yeah, they have a great role, really, because they are the one that will say pattern what actually should be looked out for in assessing. So to pass on knowledge is not just a garbage in, garbage out. There are clear, well-tested systems and methodology that have been tried and worked well. So the assessor is one that looks into how well those things are streamlined for efficient passage or transmission of skills and knowledge. Also, the green and sustainable skill focus. So such professionals should have that ability to integrate climate smart practices, renewable energy, circular economy, and resilience across programs. Also, industry connector and mentor. So the person has to be one leg in the industry and the other at the same time to be listening to the students. Strong partnership with employers for work-based learning, apprenticeship, and co-designed curricula. So the person is constantly reviewing curriculum and be part of the people that review for curriculum. They will mentor on employability, entrepreneurship, and soft skills, problem solving, thinking out of the box to solve problems. And also inclusive and learner-centered. So gone are those days where things are centered around the instructor. You know, like the one that knows it all when, you know, he gives it just to the student. Where right now, things have to be, you have to take the learner to be the center of the whole. So the instructor has to be the one to create a learning environment, because whether he would like it or not as an instructor, a lot of learning take place without us. So we have to be humble enough to realize that our job is to facilitate learning and create an enabling environment for learning to take place. You know, so skilled in differentiated instruction, supporting diverse learners, because people learn at different pace. You know, to take care of all those other groups of society that may not be able to learn at the agreed pace. Also, lifelong learners and innovators. So committed to continuous professional development. I mentioned that earlier. So that such instructor has to have reflective practice, research, and innovation in teaching methods. So you don't stick to one particular method for years. You know, well, some particular method may work for a while, but because of the changes in mentality, societal things, and all that, that particular may not work again. So we have to keep adapt to this fast changing world. And of course, lastly, the ethical and we have to be ethical leaders and advocates. High professional ethics, safety consciousness, and ability to advocate for TVET value, while promoting social justice and equity. So I think all these things help to form that instructor with, you know, a kind of forward-looking career path. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Professor Fakorede, you wanted to add something? I thought I saw your. Yeah, muted.
Thank you, Engineer Tokpe, for those points you have been able to raise. Let me speak from the classroom here and what happens in our own environment. Looking at the fact that these people are professionally competent from the industry, one major thing that comes to play here, they need to understand the pedagogy and teaching methods. What they deal with is machines and equipment. Machines and equipment, once you feed in the right code, they obey instruction. But in the case of coming into the classroom, they don't obey instruction. So the teacher needs to be advanced about pedagogies and teaching methods. Another thing is the learner difference. We have the fast learner, we have the slow learners. All this needs to come into play. And he has to slow down while delivering the lecture for him to be able to carry everybody around. The only thing the industrial man has acquired knowledge about is the workshop management. He needs to come around and learn about the classroom management so that there wouldn't be fracas. We definitely know that he has a competency-based method, but how do you impact this also need to come to play. Assessment and evaluation technique, he needs to acquire this skill, because after teaching the students, you need to evaluate them, you need to have a record for them. When we maintain safety and responsibility in the workshop, it differs from what happens in the classroom. In workshop and laboratory, instructors are legally and professionally responsible to learners' activities, and he needs to be conversant with this and be at breast with them. As well, when we are talking about communication and human relations, the way we talk in the industry is not the way we talk in the classroom. Some languages are not permissible in the classroom. He needs to learn some of these rudiments. Then we keep repeating about digital pedagogy. He needs to come and learn about these digital nitty-gritties of presenting lectures. He needs to acquire some knowledge in educational technologies. Some of these are our learning platforms. He needs to advance himself about it before he could come into the classroom. As well, the professional ethics in education, he needs to acquire it. Because you are the teacher does not mean you can talk to your students anyhow. There are some ethics that comes into play in the classroom. Definitely, we know they will help us very well, because most teachers don't have this industrial relevance knowledge. what most of us are benefiting from is that we had at one time or the other work with the industry and we know what is there. He also needs to come down this environment and learn what is applicable in the classroom. The continuous professional development in the industry differ from what is happening in the classroom. He needs to make himself available to the environment, the professional development in the classroom. And I must comment about this. When we're talking about professional development in the schools, the government is availing you once 3 years development that they will make you available. But for you to be continuously relevant, you must be ready to dip your hand into your pocket and hit the streets to acquire some of this knowledge. And so the ultimate industrial professional man must understand that teaching itself is a professional requiring coming down to come and acquire some competency. He's been found competent in the practical area. He needs to come around again and come and relearn. So the most successful TVET instructors are those who effectively combine industrial expertise with pedagogical skills, patience, mentoring. You need to come and learn about patience, about mentorship, about communication ability, and commitment to learners' development. When all these are married with each other, the industrial man will be a very good instructor. Thank you.
Thank you for that addition, Professor Fakorede. In fact, you already bundled some part of my next few questions I wanted us to touch on. And and I must add also that, for professionals in industry, a good number of them already have some transferable skills, not necessarily in the traditional teaching environment, but a lot of them also have interfaced with different categories of learners. But however, bordering on what you said, there are also some things to learn that makes for a fully functional learning environment. A question I have for you, and we're wrapping up in the next 10 minutes, is there a clear career pathway designed for TVET instructors? I could give, for example, I know I read some documents on research, on education research for who qualifies to be a teacher or an instructor in the TVET space. There was a UNESCO Univoc profile of Nigeria, and I remember there, for you to be an instructor, you must have completed your BSc. For you to be a teacher in the TVET space or like an assistant, then you are probably maybe you have like an OND, HND, all right. But there is still that I do not know of. That's why I'm asking you if there is a clear pathway. Say you complete your technical program. From there, you go to this place, you learn for some time, then maybe later you do some, well, instead of industry practice, you do some school, there's a word, the practicum or something like that. Then before you now enter into the instructor role, and then you can progress from there. Is there an established document we can reference or that can be shared with people that are aspiring or even considering that they want to go into the TVET instruction space? Professor Fakorede.
Thank you. I'm on. Like you rightly said, anyone can aspire to teach. But this time around, we are talking about effective teaching. And this which require more than simply possessing knowledge or technical skill. A person who teaches should possess appropriate competencies, character, communication ability, and willingness to support the learning and development of others. Certificate-wise, before you can be found worthy to teach, you must possess some educational qualification. You must be registered with the TRCN, and you must possess some requisite skill. Professionally, trained teachers or technical experts must possess pedagogy training, industrial practitioner with instruction competence. You must be skilled and be able to manage students. You must be able to manage students. Because when we're talking about people coming from the industry, all they do is giving commands to the machine or giving command to tools, and a job is done, either by programming, either by giving a direct instruction, and the tone in which is used in the industry and in the classroom, they are far apart. The tone in the industry is, hello?
Yeah, sorry, let me interject there. You know, we understand what you're saying, but the question really is, for example, someone has to go to primary school before you can enter secondary school, junior before you move to senior. So what I'm asking is that, is there a clearly defined path to become a TVET instructor? That, I mean, like a standard, all right, that you have to, I mean, you mentioned TRCN now, all right, and I know there's also technical training institutions, all right. I'm not so sure how well those, not the one in, I mean, your department also, you actually train teachers. Is there some like a standardized, probably policy backed or reference of, all right, track to say, someone says, I'm going into technical education, I want to become an instructor in the next 5, 6, 7 years. Is there a clearly established pathway?
There are.
Okay.
Let me talk from the NAPTEP and the MBT point of view. About skill qualifications now, the MBT has hierarchized NSQ into 6 levels. That for you to be found competent to be an instructor, you must have the following. For the NSQ1 is equivalent to the JSS. Then for the NSQ2, that is, you may not even go to the normal school arrangement. Like the last executive secretary of JAMB is saying that today is a professor. He didn't go to secondary school. He followed his own Arabic and Islamic study hierarchy, and he was able to get there. So in TVET for now, we have NSQ1, which is equivalent to GSS1. We have NSQ2, which is equivalent to NAPTEP. We have NSQ3, which is equivalent to senior secondary school. The NSQ4 is equivalent to Advanced National Craft Certificate. The NSQ5 is equivalent to ND, while the NSQ6 is equivalent to BSc. But if you are not towing that line, you can go to normal secondary school, normal technical college. After the technical college, attend the College of Education Technical, get the certificate, then come over to the university to come and have a degree in technology education. In the TVET area in the universities, we have the vocational line, we have the technology or technical line. Among people on the vocational line are people who are coming around for BSc Agric Education, BSc Fine Arts, BSc Business Education. Then on the technology technical education line, we have people who are coming in for technical education direct or industrial technical education. So having acquired the first degree in technical education, you are qualified to be a teacher in the TVET skill. And at the same time, if you are not towing from the education line, probably you read engineering or you read any of the engineering area, you still need to come into education to come and have what we call postgraduate diploma in technical education. And what the postgraduate diploma in technical education will do for you is to imbibe in you some of these psychological concepts, some of the philosophical concepts about a learner, some of this way for you to be able to assess, which is the measurement and evaluation. All this, you will be well prepared and baked. And by the time you have acquired what a human being is and how they could differ in their thinking and outburst, then I think you are qualified to be an instructor in the technical space.
Okay,
And when we talk about teaching, we must agree to the fact that there's this two school of thought that teaching is acquired, teaching is inborn. Some people could teach very well, but they still need to come around and acquire this skill. Because according to the Nigeria standard, before you can teach, you still need either a diploma or a degree in education for you to know how to interact with human beings. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. You said a degree, but can a certification take care of that if it also addresses the same thing?
That what?
Can a certification, all right, take care of what the degree can also do if it addresses the same thing? And is it acceptable?
In Nigeria context, you still need the university degree. Though there are professional developments that people engage in, some certificate courses, some diploma courses, but certification in education is still what you can use in tendering to be an instructor or a technical teacher.
Okay.
So we see it as, even after acquiring these educational certificates, you may still proceed. All these certification, this diploma, we see it as CPD. But you still need to come under a confined environment that spells out what is to be done.
Okay. All right, thank you for that. Engineer Tokwe, I have a question for you.
Okay.
Being in the TVET instruction space for well over 20 years, and also, like you said, one leg in the instruction space as an instructor, another leg as a professional. Is there any clear rewarding career progression pathway within TVET instruction beyond the fact that you teach in a class or in a workshop working with trainees? All right, beyond the fact that you also train in service, all right, people, professionals, is there any other career progression pathway beyond those two areas that a TVET instructor can excel in? Engineer Tokwe.
Sorry, your voice was cracking there. Last one. Is there any other professional what?
I was asking, beyond teaching in the classroom workshop, all right, and beyond or probably also training in service professionals, are there other career progression pathway for TVET instructors to excel in?
Yes, there are quite a number. And it all depends on the path, the track that the person is actually going with. So I would say there are basically two main parts. You can see the teaching track or the leadership track or administrative track. The teaching track, you can start as a mentor, then as a mentor teacher, then proficient teacher, distinguished teacher, and so on. And after a while, you become certified as an instructor. But in a, as an official as an official instructor, there are clear paths in the technical education that you have to go with. Of course, you have your NCE, then you go after the NCE, you have acquire a degree, and later on the PGDTE, postgraduate technical, postgraduate for technical education. And with that, you can now acquire other technical skills that you want. And of course, even in technical education, when you are in the administrative track, you can uh, go as starting as a lecturer two, I'm sorry, lecturer three, lecturer two, lecturer one, senior lecturer, principal lecturer, and even the chief lecturer, the case may be. So all these are, say, higher path. But over and above all this, within the Nigerian context, since I think we place a lot of premium on the certificate, so people always hunt for equivalence. So, like Prof rightly put it that time, you have MBQ level 1 to 6 and all that, and usually people try to use this equivalence to be able to do the link with a more prestigious certificate that's I have a friend like that today because of his those equivalents, he's a university professor, but he never went to university. This is a fellow who started with city and guild level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and was hunting for those equivalents, and now he got to level 8 and applied for a PhD. And as well got a PhD, he got his PhD. And now he applied to a private university. He's now teaching at a private university, started publishing papers. Now he's a university professor. He never had a BSc in quotes. He never had an MSc, but took advantage of those equivalents. I used to tease him that don't go to any public university because they will plug you out. You cannot teach in them because these are people that have paid the dues, have gone through the rigors of a BSc, MSc, and you just went to the back door and you got the professorship. I'm sure engineer Professor Karen Pakorede will not see such a person as a qualified professor.
No,
anyway, so sorry.
I didn't hear what you said.
Okay, I said if you have a fellow like that, who had a city and guild level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and eventually did a PhD, and now after publishing some paper is now a university professor. He's now teaching in the university. Who never had a BSc, never had an MSc, but just took advantage of those equivalents to be able to rise through the ladder.
That what you are mentioning now, sir, is what Professor Bugage is preaching now. That you don't necessarily have to go and sit down in the classroom, acquire the skill and know the rudiments. Then, in as much as you can deliver and function, you are good to go. In developed countries,
very good.
Depending on your ability, that's what you will be paid for, not the number of certificates you are carrying, like we have in Nigeria.
Okay. Beautiful. So in that sense, the other career path exists, and if those equivalents are well harnessed, I think a TVET instructor can follow any of this path that suits him, and the sky's the limit. So I think that's my take on that.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. That's very insightful. And it's also refreshing to learn that beyond being in the classroom, there are other roles where a TVET instructor can function very well. Administration, like you said, being an instructor in a classroom, even when it comes to thought leadership, developing your leadership, and technological innovation also. Those are very important career progression path that can be followed, because oftentimes when people might be different for you, but from experience I see when engaging instructors, some of them are like, look, there's nothing else to do, let me just go and do some other business. But having understanding and becoming aware that there's so much progression that lies within that part is very encouraging. So finally, if you're advising, and this for both you and Professor Fakorede, if you're advising a young person considering career in TVET instruction today, what would you want them to understand about the opportunity, the responsibility, and the long-term impact of this profession. Who wants to go first?
Okay. Well, let me see the few I have. So I think I will first of all tell such a young man who wants to follow that career path
Or young
that it should
woman?
be, or young woman. Sorry, thank you. Sorry for that. To be ready to be passionate about what he or she does. You know, because every field of endeavor has its own challenges, and it's your passion that will take you through what you're doing, and should be self-trainable. In other words, that you're constantly upgrading yourself, because the pace of change right now is so fast that what one has to have that permanent will to improve, to update himself or herself. So most times, when people go into such profession and they don't have proper orientation before entering into it, they enter and probably they meet what they didn't bargain for, you know. And lastly, the person should look at, take pride in his work. If you are competent in what you are doing, people will respect you because you are creating value. So he or she should never succumb to that derogatory look of that profession of technical education. He or she should see our work as a good, a good chunk of contribution to the GDP of the country and the society at large. Thank you.
Very much, Engineer Tokwe. You have summarized it all, but let me add 1 or 2 points. A career in technical and vocational education is a very strong and future-relevant pathway for a young person. If I have to advise anybody coming in, I don't want them to see TVET as a fallback. And since I don't have what to do, let me go in there. You may not be able to flourish. And you know, I made mention of one thing. You see, when your passion is your career, you will flourish fast. If that is what you like doing, and in as much as TVET has to do with skill, the interest must be there. So if the interest is there, you will move. And as well, you need to follow a 3 pathway. And that is what I describe as the first one is you should have a strong technical skill in a trade or discipline. If you don't, like I used to advise my students, this you are doing, it is not enough for you to acquire all these theoretical methodologies. You need a strong technical skill, which you must acquire. At your leisure time, I do advise them, go to the streets, meet the tailors, meet the electrician, meet the mechanic. You stoop to conquer. You don't carry and flop your shoulder that you want to learn. You need a very strong technical skill. Number 2, you need a basic engineering or technological understanding. Because apart from being able to do it, how does this thing operate? What are those components that are making them to work? Then lastly, you need a strong teaching and communication skill. You see, this career is very promising. I keep saying this. After acquiring my first degree in technical education, because the distance to go and acquire masters is very far, you have to go to the east or the north. I diverted to measurement and evaluation. I got my master's degree. I'm already enlisted for the PhD. I have even registered. Then I look back. If I should continue on measurement and evaluation now, what will happen to my drawing ability? What will happen to all the practical ability that I can function in? I said, no, that way is not my way. So we have high growing demand for skilled instructors. We have high growing demand for skilled practical men. So they should be aware of this. They should also be aware that there are opportunities in multiple sectors. Think of all the sectors we have in engineering, the technical area, the vocational area. We have so many areas. We need us in the technical college, we need us in the polytechnic, in the university, vocational training center, corporate training departments. NGO and development project agents, they need TVET specialists. And entrepreneurial skill centers are springing up. If you see some of many preaching about from the minister now, he's every day talking about TVET, TVET, TVET. And a lot of modernization and repackaging is occurring. As well, you must have a stable and respected professional pathway. And you will not be respected if you are not competent and you are not worthy in the area where you want to deliver instruction. You must be ready. And we have dual career growth. You can function in the classroom, you can function in the industry. For every TVET man or TVET woman, sorry, my chief host, you have dual prospects. A technical education can combine teaching, consulting, and industrial practice. So we have what to do. We are globally relevant. If you know you want to come into this field, just be ready to learn. In as much as you have your skill, you have your technical education, you are globally relevant. Like Canada is looking for skilled men every day. They are looking for skilled personnel every day. Then, as well, we have entrepreneurship potential. You can decide to stay on your own and be consulting, either for the industry or you even want to employ people and carry out work. I don't want to mention some industry. People that establish those industries, they don't have any technical competence. They only use their managerial skill. And you can also do that as a specialist in this area. And I keep advising my young ones that you should focus early in life on what you want to do. If you have a focus, study solid technical engineering related courses, gain real industrial exposures. When you are asked to go for your sideways, sit down that moment. Don't start jumping around, whiling away your time. Learn how to teach, explain how to communicate, and people will be convinced. Develop digital literacy. If you develop a very good digital literacy, you will flourish. Build problem-solving and innovative abilities. I remember those days I was doing my sideways with GM Motors. You see, one good thing about technical and vocational area is that when we solve a problem and that problem is not fully solved, you won't sleep. Any engineer or any vocational educator will bear me witness. If you are lying down, even closing your eyes, you are thinking about the solution to those problems. And if it is not your passion, you want to do that. You just close, go home, come back the second day. But if it's your passion, that problem-solving ability is inherent. And as you progress, if you understand what you are doing, you should be able to mentor people. And even as much as you're mentoring people, you're also growing. So the future of technical education is not only bright, it is essential in so many countries. Many countries are falling back to it to increase their gross domestic earning. So in summary, career in technical and educational is stable, it has growth, it has impact on the community, and we have multiple opportunities across education and industrial area. So I'll give that child a thumb up that you are in the right place. They only need to work on themselves to succeed. Thank you.
So thank you very, very much. It was a very insightful session. When the Bagana now are both planned. I say a big thank you to you, Engineer Tokwe, and Professor Fakorede for sharing your experience. I mean, like you said, this is timely because this is one area that I believe is not getting the needed attention it should, because TVET instructors are very critical in this time, and even they've been in the past and even now more so in the future. Also considering the emerging technologies and changes in the environment, all right, they are like the aircraft pilots in the classroom or in the workshop. So I just want to say a big thank you. Our video will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. Most of the time, we always have people coming back to review, understanding that today is Friday. Some people are still in the holiday spirit and still enjoying themselves. I want to say a big thank you. And we're definitely going to have more conversation on the TVET instructor role. All right, we're definitely going to have more conversation, because we need to have more younger population that are trained and prepared to take up that role for the next 10, 20 years. So thank you very much and have a lovely weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.